Howdy everybody, Johnny Super here. Going to do a quick review on the Kral Arms Puncher Breaker. I have the silent walnut version here. Walnut referring to the stock, which is actually pretty nice. Puncher Breaker. We're starting here in the back. Rubber butt pad, non-adjustable. Plastic cheek piece, adjustable for lateral movement, not adjustable for height. This is nice. I like having something I can put my cheek on that is not the receiver. This has a adjustable trigger, moderately adjustable. Because it's a bullpup, there's a linkage that goes from here to back where the sear engagement is. And there's a second stage screw that you can, Allen screw, that you can adjust to let off on the brake on the second stage. And then at the back of the linkage, there's a nut that if you were to tighten it up a little bit, would take out a little bit of that first stage slop that's in there. It's not a target grade trigger because it's a bullpup. It's got that linkage. It's never going to be as sensitive as a fully adjustable trigger, but it's nice. It's not bad. It has an adjustable transfer port here, shrouded barrel here, 3000 psi air tube here, with manometer here. Don't like that. Never like looking down the barrel of a gun to see if it's full or not. Has a fill probe. Again, anybody who's watched my videos knows that I'm not a big fan of fill probes. This particular model has issues with the fill probe as well. It has an adjustable, it has a Picatinny rail on it. No MOA built into it. I needed to put a 1/2-inch riser on here in order to get my eye up far enough off of the cheek rest in order to get a comfortable hold. This was a 1/2-inch. I used the UTG. And if you need to get some MOA adjustment, which I believe I did, I ran out of elevation. I got the UTG that has 20 MOA built into it. So I ended up compensating for that droop because I ran out of elevation. The scope I have on this now is I think it's a 3-27. It's a cheap Chinese-based scope called the Sniper line. What I like about this line is that it comes with the caps on it. It's got an illuminated reticule, target lock caps in that you snap them down and they lock in place. You can loosen them up and zero them out, put them on zero, and then lock them down in place. It comes with rings, and it's side focus. So I like the cheaper scopes. This is a PCP, so it doesn't have a bunch of recoil. I'm not worried about that. Has a Picatinny rail up front here for mounting a bipod. I put an adapter on here to change it to a sling style. It's basically an adapter that snaps on to the Picatinny that puts a sling stud. And then I bought a cheap Champion $40 Walmart bipod that has a cant lockout. So if you're on an uneven surface, you can actually lock this and compensate for it, which I love. And it's relatively sturdy. I have no complaints about the Champion bipod on here, and that goes on the Picatinny on the bottom. One of the things about this is that the Picatinny has a single point of attachment to the wood stock. It's a nice brass insert that goes all the way through the stock, and the Picatinny mounts up in there, but because it only has a single point of engagement at the middle, if you twist it, it'll twist. So what I ended up doing was drilling 2 extra holes through the Picatinny, countersunk them, and then put smaller screws that don't obstruct any of the mounting options in there, but they keep that Picatinny from moving back and forth. So one of my first dislikes about this gun is the manometer up front that you have to look down the barrel to see how full it is. Don't like that. I like the fact that they included the Picatinny and it was removable, but the fact that it's only attached in one place instead of if they had just put a screw at each end of it, it would have no chance in twisting on you. That's my second dislike. My third dislike is that I couldn't fill this gun when it came out of the box. The reason why I couldn't fill it is twofold. First, the fill probe that I was sent was too fat. It simply would not go up into the fill port, which is just poor quality control. So I took the fill probe and put it on a sander and took off a thousandth or two, got it to seat. Went to go fill the gun, started hissing air. When I took a look at the probe, one of the O-rings, the top O-ring, the one that goes all the way in, so this has a dust cover right here, twists, and it's got a hole in it that you put the probe through. The probe O-ring, the top one that goes all the way in and goes over inside this fill port, is a check valve, obviously, to let the air into the tube. And there's a hole for that. That check valve, the hole, wasn't machined correctly to the point where as soon as that O-ring went over that hole, it would cut a slice through it and then no longer would make a good seal. So that was a major issue with the quality control. So I had to take a little Dremel deburring bit by hand. I went in through the fill hole here, the probe hole, went into that little air inlet hole and just by hand just kind of went around in a couple of circles to take that rough edge off, and then I blew it out with some air to make sure I didn't get any schmutz through the check valve. Since I did that, I'm not slicing my O-rings anymore, but the quality control out of the factory should have definitely covered that, and it didn't. So that was a major issue as far as I was concerned. At first I couldn't get the probe in there, and then once I got the probe in there, every time I put it in there and took it out, it had a nick cut out of it. So I had to do that. The second issue is that this is my second unit, second puncher breaker that I've had, and they both had the same problem. They both had a crappy machining job done to the air inlet hole. I had to dechamfer both of them, and both of them had valve failures. And the valve failure was not an O-ring, but the actual stem in the valve. After a tin or two of pellets, on one of my guns, I noticed my velocity was just falling way off, and it was the valve, the stem. And then a second one, while I was shooting it, just went pop after I had taken a shot, and then air just started hissing out the barrel. The first one I sent back was within the return period from the distributor that I bought it from. They sent me this one, and then this one lasted about 1,000 pellets, 1,200 pellets, before it had the same valve problem. And because it was beyond the return period, and at this point I would have just sent it back and been done with Kral, but I couldn't. So they repaired it. Air Venturi repaired it. I believe they're the ones who market this thing. I bought it from Pyramid Air. And since then, it's been doing okay. I'm not saying that it's not going to have the same failure another 500 pellets from now, but so those are the things that I basically don't like about the gun. Quality control, the valves, from what I've seen, garbage. Machining, garbage. Okay, now having said that, what do I like about this gun? The price, $449 is, I believe, what most of the major distributors are getting for this now. The stock on it is relatively nice. The bluing on it is relatively nice. The side lever is relatively smooth. Adjustable transfer port, love it. Picatinny rail, okay, not high enough, but that's fine. Trigger is adjustable to the point where it's okay. Accuracy, it's pretty darn accurate. Mine is set up to hurl 18.1 air arms or JSB pellets anywhere between 830 and 850 downrange. Came with single shot tray and 2 magazines. Magazines hold 12 rounds and 22. Classy. 2 magazines. Nice. Magazines are actually rather substantial. They're a little bit beefier than your standard Marauder magazine. They do run on that same platform where you have a clear plastic top that you twist in the opposite direction to put tension on the spring. Drop the first pellet through to keep the follower in place, and then fill in the rest of the 11 pellets, snap it closed, slide it in, have at it. Side levers nice and smooth, and it did smooth out considerably as I was shooting the gun. Accuracy, up to 50 yards, you can put 5 shots into a nickel with this with relative ease. Beyond 50 yards with any pellet, you're going to start to get pushed around with the wind. But up to 50 yards, this thing is very, very accurate. I have no problem shooting air silhouette with it and hitting a chicken at 20 yards or a ram at 45 yards at all. And it's got some good power, 830, 850 feet a second with an 18 grain pellet. And I get 36 full power shots, filling it up to 3,000 pounds and then dropping it down to anywhere between 1,800 and say 1,950 when I get done with those 36 shots. It's not regulated. For a $445 regulator would be a little much. But the shot count is good. The shroud is reasonably effective. It's not quiet. It certainly doesn't live up to its silent name, but it's also not barking. I can shoot it down in the range I have down here in the man cave, and it's not going to get hollers from anybody upstairs. Would I get this gun again? It's a question I ask myself. So I'm annoyed about the machining, lack of dechamfering. I'm annoyed about the quality of the valve. But from an accuracy standpoint, it's right where I want it to be. Side lever smooth, love it. Cheek piece, love it. Walnut stock is relatively decent. Trigger is relatively tunable. Comes with a bipod attachment or a Picatinny on the bottom here. Don't like the manometer, having to look down it. I'm kind of on the fence. So for me, I would get this gun again because I can tinker with things. I've got tools. I have a cranny. I can figure out velocities. I can tune it. If you want to adjust the hammer tension, the hammer spring tension, there is, I have to take it out of the stock, but there is an adjustment screw here in the back. You use a flat head and you can turn it in so you get yourself some more velocity. Of course, that's going to be at the expense of a shot count. I would get this gun again, but that's because I have tools and a little bit of knowledge for air guns. If you're looking for something that is going to be trouble-free right out of the box and be quality that is a level that you're probably not going to have to mess with it, this is probably not the right gun for you. Is it a good value for $449? It is. And I enjoy shooting this gun. I also would not have a problem with putting this in the hands of a guest because of its value, and it's not my competition gun where you worry about a guest misdoing something with it. It comes with a single shot tray and 2 magazines. That's kind of a classy move. I don't like a fill probe. I wish that it just had a Foster fitting on there so you could snap on your female and be done with it. But beyond that, that's kind of my quick review on this puppy. Make your own decisions as to whether or not it is for you. Those are the things I like about it, also the things I don't like about it, and I hope this helped.